some breaking news that we need to get to. A last-minute call on a lawsuit against Vice President Mike Pence. A federal judge has tossed out a lawsuit against the vice president to overturn the election results. The Department of Justice issued the request on Pence's behalf last night to a federal judge. The suit was filed by Republican Congressman Gohmert of Texas and other GOP lawmakers this week. Congressman Gohmert is joining us now. Congressman, it's great to see you.
Great to see you, Emerald. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And, it's good to hear from you right after this is happening. Now, the judge said that you lacked standing to sue. What's your reaction to this?
Well, my reaction is that your monologue was perfectly on point. This is an example of when the institutions that our Constitution created to resolve disputes so that you didn't have to have riots and violence in the street, it's when they go wrong. Now, I still believe in the court system. I was part of the court system for decades, and both as a litigant, as a judge, and as a appellate chief justice. So I believe in it. But I also can tell you that back when I was a highest level trial judge here in Texas, and I had an extremely controversial case, most of my judge friends said, don't try it. Get rid of it, do whatever you have to. Don't try this case. It's dynamite. And I lost sleep one night trying to decide what to do. And by morning, I realized if I was going to run from the office I ran for, I had no business being there. But unfortunately, there are many judges that have never come to that conclusion. They think, let's just avoid it. Let's use procedural things. And I appreciate the opportunity to point out there still has not been one court, state or federal, that has had an evidentiary hearing and allowed the evidence of fraud to come in and be introduced.
Yep.
So all this stuff about it being debunked, unsubstantiated, those are absolute lies, complete lies. The only hearings that have been held by legislatures, and as you pointed out, Georgia has now had one, and every time there is one, people come away going, oh my gosh, this fraud is incredible. And so anyway, with regard to the standing issue, if a member of Congress who is going to object to electors that were fraudulently sent there, and a state has sent 2 sets, and I don't have standing to go to court and say the Electoral Act, it has got an unconstitutional provision. If I don't have standing to do that, nobody does. And if the appropriate defendant is not the vice president that under the Constitution has the power to make that determination, then there is no. But the bottom line is the court is saying, we're not going to touch this. You have no remedy. Basically, in effect, the ruling would be that you got to go to the streets and be as violent as Antifa and BLM.
Well, let me ask you, Congressman Gohmert. I mean, technically, the ball is still in the vice president's court, right? Where do you think he stands on reading certain electors and not others? What do you think he's going to do?
Well, I can't speak for the vice president, but it is very important that we get the unconstitutionality of the 1887 Act established so he has the freedom to not recognize fraudulent electors when they're there, others are there appropriately. But let me just also make some news with you. Tonight, our attorneys are preparing the appeal to the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. There are some incredible judges on that court, and so we're very hopeful that they will say, you know what, if our courts are not going to be useful in this dispute and the litigant here is not going to have standing and the defendant's not the appropriate and the jurisdiction is not there, then we have no business having courts. We're worthless.
So
and I don't think they say that.
Do you think they'll take that case up before the 6th?
That's my hope and prayer, and yes, I think they will take some action before the 6th, whatever it is.
Okay,
yeah, go ahead.
So there's 140 congressmen or so who said that they plan to object, and then when you have Josh Hawley in the Senate so far, do you have a concrete plan of how this is going to work?
Well, under the Constitution, we are going to have objections in the House, and that means the Senate will separate and they'll go hear 2 hours of debate over the fraud. And it's great that the president's going to help us get the evidence of the fraud into the Capitol, into the Congress. And that should be very helpful in arriving at a just conclusion. And look, I understand the House as a majority Democrat. I get that. But there's some decent people on the other side of the aisle when they know, not just hearing, the lies from the alt-left media that there's no real fraud. When they hear that there was real fraud and the evidence is there, we're still hopeful that they will do the right thing. But regardless, the vice president, especially after hearing all the debate, and then comes to the point where he has to recognize which set of electors are appropriate, hopefully he'll do the right thing and recognize the electors that are there legitimately and not as a result of fraudulent voting.
So in presenting this evidence, you're as much appealing to maybe your colleagues across the aisle, or you're as much appealing to the vice president as your colleagues across the aisle. Is that how I hear you correctly?
Or C, all of the above. This would be C, all of the above.
What do you think is going to happen? I mean, we're in uncharted territory here, Congressman Gohmert. A lot of people criticized you for putting this lawsuit forward for what you guys are doing. How's this going to turn out?
Well, it's the reason I believed in using the court system for the same reason that they were created under Article 3 of the Constitution, to resolve disputes. So you don't have to have riots and violence and what we've seen from the radical Democrats. So I still believe in that system. I still have hope in that system. There are people all over the country praying that people will get a backbone. And so, as John Quincy Adams said, the work is ours, the result's up to God. So we will keep laboring and working and trying to do everything we can to see that people come to the right conclusion. Because I'm telling you, Emerald, if they do not, it will mean the end of our republic, the end of this little experiment self-government.
We only have maybe 20 seconds. I want to ask you real quick, can the president appoint anyone at the Department of Justice to investigate this, since no one at the DOJ, from what we've heard, is looking into this?
Yes. Very quickly, yes. All power in the Department of Justice comes from and through the president. So he has that power just like the Attorney General does. It comes from him, and he can use it.
Great, Congressman. Thank you so much for joining us. Very insightful.
Thank you.